Jagged. In the end, everything is very simple. The mind complicates matters, and that will never stop until you stop relying on your mind as your method of going through life. Life is simple. Life is easy. Life is painless. It becomes difficult, complicated, painful because of mind. If you look at it without mind, it's this simple. You're on a planet in the middle of nowheres. The nowheres is infinite. Mind cannot touch that, but we left mind behind anyways. It just is going on forever in both time and space. Yet your existence on this planet is nothing. It's one grain of salt in all the oceans. That's the truth. You don't need a lot of mind to comprehend that. In fact, as you contemplate it, mind stops. For it figures, what do you need me for? A grain of salt in all the oceans. That's what this planet is, a grain of salt in the infinite universe. It's nothing. Life is simple. It's that which goes on a grain of salt in the middle of the infinite universe. That's your first understanding of the simplicity of no-mind life. The second is, it is so temporal. You will be here for what amounts to less than a blink of an eye in the realm of things. It's already half over for all of us, most of us. It hasn't really lasted that long. Not in the realm of things. Not even close. I heard the dinosaurs, they argue, or people argue when they were here, and of course their fossils show that it was, who knows, 100 million years ago, whatever it was. Even that is nothing. Look at 100 million years compared to your 100 years. The 100 million years, this planet, the sun, the solar system, are saying, is what? 5 billion years, all right? In that neighborhood. They think the universe, the known universe as we know it, 15 billion years. 100 million is nothing. Your time factor is nothing. Nothing. The amount of time it takes for that grain of salt to move once in any direction at any time is your time in space. You don't need mind for this, do you? It's obvious. It's real. Life is simple. It is what happens during that moment, during that blink of an eye, on this infinitesimally small nothing. Why would it be difficult? Why would it be painful? Why would it be embarrassing? Why would it be hard? It can't possibly be any of those things. It's nothing. It's just something that takes place during that moment in time in this nothing place. You say, well, it could be that during that moment in time, as short as it is, and in the midst of this nothing, tiny little place, that you carry the burden of the universe. You carry the burden of making it all happen or holding it all together. Do you? It's so amazing if you look at it honestly, which again does not require much mind, quiets the mind. You don't do anything. The oceans go through their tides without your help. The moon goes through its phases. Your cells divide. Your stomach digests. Your heart beats. Your lungs breathe. When you're a child, your body grew. Your hair grows. Your nails grow. What do you do? Nothing. Nothing. You have nothing to do with it. Nothing. The weather comes and goes, and the whole thing unfolds by itself, doesn't it? All the deer, we love the deer out here. Where do they sleep in? I don't know. They seem to make for themselves. All the possums, all the animals all over the world, all the forests get watered. Nobody runs around. Really, they don't. With a little can and stuff, and nobody fertilizes them. Will you please look at how many things go on? The planets stay in orbit, and the atoms, the law of covalent bonds, you've learned that. The electron rings hold them together. It happens by itself. Nobody's doing it. Nobody, not a scientist out there, is making that happen. All of the atoms in creation are holding themselves together, aren't they? Everything is happening by itself. You're not asked to do any of it. It's all there. It was there before that moment came where you showed up. It will be there after the moment ends, when you leave. All by itself. If you put these things together, you wonder, what is there to think about? You don't understand how the mind stays so busy. You're not doing anything for any length of time, anywhere. A grain of salt that holds itself together and it moves for a moment. And that's the end of it. Where are you in this? And the answer is nowhere. Your body is just like the possum's body, just like the deer's body, just like the tree. It exists as part of the whole. It's not yours. You wouldn't know how to make it. It didn't fix itself. It didn't stop bleeding. You wouldn't know how to make it stop bleeding. If it didn't digest the food, you wouldn't know how to make it digest the food. If it didn't make a baby, you wouldn't know how to make the baby. You're not doing anything with this body. Anything. It does it all by itself, just like a rabbit's or a possum's or a deer's or anything else. More and more, if you have wisdom, I hope you see it falls away from you. None of it has anything to do with you. And none of it has any meaning that you're trying to give it. Who in their right mind would give meaning to a grain of salt in the ocean? I mean, to where you get upset about where it goes or what it does or what happens in the grain of salt. There's 800 zillion billions of them. Well, that's how many stars and moons and planets there are and how much space there are. And it's such a blink, such a minuscule. How many of you have been here? Do you know? How many of you have walked this earth? Just this earth. Think about all the years and all those who have come and gone. How many billions and billions and billions of you? How many do you know about? None. That's how many will know about you. None. Nothing. It's just like the newspaper. It's interesting when it comes and gets published and you read it and it's gone. That's what your life is. On this tiny thing, will you please, instead of listening to me, just get a snapshot of what the astronauts see when they go up in the shuttle? It's just a little planet in the middle of nowhere. And then put it in relationship to the galaxies and everything. And then will you please put time in perspective? Your minuscule 80 to 100 years. And then again, contemplate how everything runs itself. We use the word nature, and you think environment. Will you please look at what you mean by nature? All that is through all of the galaxies and universe and all of the atoms and subatomic, everything that has nothing to do with you, nothing. What percentage are you and what you do in relationship to what nature does? Is there a number small enough? Just at any moment, what is nature doing versus what you're doing? It's unbelievable, isn't it? How could you possibly be having this much trouble? Where are there problems? I don't understand. Life is simple. The problem comes with conscious awareness. But that's not a problem, that's a blessing. If this is your situation and it's going on and you're not aware of it, hey, you're not going to surely have any problems in any way, shape, or form. That's why you like sleeping so much. When you have a problem, you just go to sleep. Then you don't have to be aware of it, right? If you weren't aware of anything, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. There'd be nothing. Mind shuts up during sleep. Okay, it's fine. It is that consciousness gets added into this, and it's aware of what? Whatever it happens to be aware of. Like there's 800 billion, zillion, quillion things to be aware of. It's just aware of whatever it's aware of. So what? I wish for a moment, if you get nothing from any talk we've ever had, can you contemplate even for a moment what it would be like to just see? In other words, here it is, nature, all of it. Do you notice? You see it? Here it is. That's it, just see it. Just be the one who sees it. Don't judge it. Don't try to keep it. Don't try to make it go away. Don't try to understand it. Don't try to analyze it. Don't try to tie it together with what you've seen before. Don't do a thing. I told you how big it is. It's all going on by itself from the beginning of time. When I add consciousness to this, that we spent our time talking, all it should do is add awareness of being. Now you have the right to see it. You don't see all of it. You don't see the whole universes and galaxies and, atoms and all that stuff. You just see what you see. You're not going to see all of it. You just see a piece of it. What piece? Who cares? You don't even see one grain of sand's worth of the whole universe, do you? Okay, but you see a little something here. You see a room, all right? That's neat that you see part of it. Just see it. What's so hard about that? She came in late. She came in early. She's wearing this. She's wearing that. It's just what is. It's just what happens to be right now. There was something else before. Now there's this. There'll be something else again, won't there? It's just life. It's creation. It's universe passing through time and space. It's been doing it forever. Are you telling me you're not capable of just seeing it? And the answer is yes. That's the rub. You are not capable of just seeing it, are you? You got to do something about it. You got to get your mind on it. You can't just know that it always was, it always will be, it goes on forever, and you're just seeing a drop of it for a moment. So what? It doesn't matter. Why won't you just see it? If you live here, you live here. You live there, you live there. You're with this person, with this person, with that person, with that person. You're sick, you're sick. You're healthy, you're healthy. You're tall, you're tall. You're short, you're short. In the realm of things, what are you going to tell me about the shape of your salt grain? What is the difference? It's irrelevant. What's relevant is where there didn't need to be anything, there's creation. There's this universe. Wow. And you get to see some of it. That's what was happening for a short period of time. Why can't it be like that? Who said it can't be like that? Who said you can't wake up in the morning so you get to see a little more? Do you know what's going to happen when you wake up in the morning? You're going to get to see another day. What do you care what happens? I know you do, but I'm playing make-believe with you. What do you care? Nothing's happening. You're just seeing creation. You're seeing nature. You're just seeing. If you could get yourself there, you're enlightened. Isn't that funny? That's all it is. The clarity of being. The clarity of just seeing what is with the one who sees. That's all. The problem comes when you impose upon this very perfect and free system the concept of preference, the concept of desire. It's not that I just see it. See what? That which I have nothing to do with. I have a preference about how it is. I don't want that you came in late. I don't want that a guy sits there instead of a girl. I don't want that you wear this. I don't want that that's happening. I don't want this. I don't want that. I do want this and I do want that and I don't like that. What are you doing? I thought we were just seeing. That's not just seeing. You have now added to this copacetic, beautiful Garden of Eden I gave you, which is it's all doing its own thing. Just watch. Have fun. You don't have to stay anyways. There's no burden. There's nothing. There's just the joy of the experience of life. You just added something unbelievable to that. You added the most confusing, complicating factor that could ever be. preference. That's all it takes. The moment you add preference, what happens? Things are no longer okay. Can you see that? Things will never be okay again, ever. Why? Because you define something called okay. You all of a sudden defined a way it should be and a way it shouldn't be. The way I want it, the way I don't want it. Well, why is that a problem? We just spent a half hour discussing how how it should be and how it shouldn't be, has nothing to do with you. It's just creation that goes on forever. It's all of nature. You didn't do a thing. Remember all the atoms and the galaxies? And you admitted to me you had nothing to do with it. Now you're saying how it should be and how it shouldn't be. You're guaranteed to lose. I'll tell you what. I'm going to be a child, and I'm going to grow up to a certain stage. I'm going to tell my parents who love me very much and want me to be happy, I've decided what I want to do in my life. I've decided what will make me happy. We're so proud of you. That's wonderful. What is it you decide, my son? I've decided that every single morning I'm going to sit down and I'm going to take a star chart, blank star chart, and I'm going to spend 3 to 4 hours during the day of putting where I want the stars to be. Where I want the planets to be today, where I want the galaxies to be, where I want all the different stars to be. What would make me happy, I just want them that way. And then I'm going to go out at night and I'm going to look to see if they're that way. And if they're that way, the way I wanted them, I'm going to get so happy. Can you imagine how happy I'd be if all the stars in heavens were the way I wanted them to be? God, it would make me feel so happy. Aren't you proud of me? I would be so joyous. If they're ever not that way, I'm going to be very upset. And if it, keeps being that way, there'll be no meaning to my life in any way, shape, or form, because that's the meaning of my life, to have the things be the way I want them to be. How would you feel if your child came to you and talked to you like that? You'd call a doctor immediately. You'd say, where did you get that idea? The stars are not going to be where you want them to be. The stars are where they are. And if you sit there and decide where you want the stars to be and determine your happiness based on whether they're that way, you're a dead duck, aren't you? That is what you have done. You have sat here in the middle of a universe that a moment ago you admitted you have no control over. It has nothing to do with you. And I asked the scientist, what is the percentage of control that your actions have versus all of nature? There wasn't a number small enough, was there? And now you said what you're going to do when I gave you the right to see just a little piece of it, that what you're going to do with your time between your birth and your death is make up how you want it to be and get upset if it's not that way and get happy when it is. That's what preferences do. If you do that, you will suffer. Well, some preferences are okay. No. Don't kid yourself. They are what I just said they were. Well, what if I don't get really attached to how the stars are? I mean, I get a little sad, but I won't contemplate suicide. I won't. I'm not going to get married or do anything else, right? Because I just don't feel right to live in a world that's never the way I want it. But I'm not bringing no kids in this world, right? But net is I won't be attached to it. But there's nothing wrong with doing it. Well, of course there is. That's an absurd thing to do. That's the same thing you're doing with your psyche. You're saying, I'm going to make up the way I want the heavens and the stars and the planets to be. They're never going to be that way. So why are you doing this stupid thing of making up how you want them to be so that you can suffer when they're not that way? It just doesn't make any sense. Either you have control over it or you don't. And you don't. I tricked you into admitting, when we started this discussion, that the amount of control you have over all of nature is nothing. You don't even make your lungs breathe. You don't even make your heart beat. You don't even make your stomach digest. You don't make your hair grow. You don't have control over the world. You don't. So to go in there and instead of just being honored to see it, to experience it during this little bit of time that you have, instead to use your time to do this thing with your mind, which is what you do with your mind, which is to decide what you want and what you don't want. Decide what you like and decide what you don't like. Decide what's good and decide what's bad. Decide what's right and decide what's wrong. And then look out into this world that has nothing to do with you and suffer. You know who saw that? Buddha. Didn't he? Isn't that funny? That we have a funny little talk like this. It seems so weird. And then you go to one of the greatest traditions there is. All of life is suffering. The cause of suffering is preference, desires. To end suffering, end desires, end preference. The truth is, if you're clear, and you're just pure being, pure consciousness, then you see what is. You see the world. Just tree, the Buddha said. I saw just tree. You should see just life. Forget tree. Just life. Everything is just life. It's just you're seeing what is. You'll never have another problem, will you? But the moment you say, I want it and I don't want it to be that way, what's going to happen? You laid the groundwork for suffering. You laid the groundwork for struggling. You laid the groundwork for every single human emotion there is. Let's take some good emotions. What is dread? The word we don't use very much. What is dread? I dread that. That's a very strong preference. It's a very, that is indication of me, the preference doctor. That is indication of an extremely strong preference against something, isn't it? I mean, I really, 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 really don't want that to happen. Webster's definition, dread. Wow. So if you don't build these preferences, then what? He can do whatever he wants. He can do what he wants. I'm just watching it. It just goes about his business, doesn't it? I don't have dread. Dread is the result of the disturbed energies that are the result of preferences. Because you built within your mind this preference, you have a thing about that, a blockage, a samskara. Therefore, when the energy tries to flow, the Shakti, the Chi, the ecstasy of God, the core of your being, tries to flow through, it hits that blockage. And you get weird. Your heart starts to hurt and you feel emptiness and hollowness and fear and all kinds of stuff. That's what dread is. Caused by preference. There can't be dread when there's not preference. You wouldn't know what to dread. You have to pick what you don't want first. It's a prerequisite. A prerequisite for dread is you have to decide what you don't want. And then either it makes you unhappy, it irritates you. How do you get irritated? How do you get irritated? When things you don't want show up. They irritate you. Is that like dread? No. You have to really not want it to be dread. If you just don't want it a little bit, it just irritates you. Give me any emotion you want, and you will see its core comes from preference. You built the groundwork for all of your human mess by using your mind to decide how you want things to be. If you didn't do that, they could just be the natural way. Natural meaning nature. Not good, not bad, I'm not saying that, just natural, just nature, the way they are naturally. And you would see this. Well, what would I do? What would be my part in this if I just saw it? I don't understand. The possum has a part. Why won't you have a part? The possum ain't doing this. They don't drop all those preferences and suffer and do this stuff because things aren't the way they want them. They're just interacting with what's there. But yet they go out at night and they have children and they do all kinds of stuff. Don't even possum have kids. They're cute little things. Possums have a good life, have an interesting life. But the important part is they don't do nothing, do they? So why do you say that if you just be part of life, that you'll do nothing? Why won't you get married? Why won't you have kids? Why won't things happen? They will happen just as much to this as they do to any other part of nature. You have your part of nature too. It's just none of your business. What your part of nature is is that which happens when your preferences are out of the way. Things will happen. They just will be part of life. They won't be part of you. That is the Tao. That is the harmony. That is the Dharma. It's not complicated, is it? It's not complicated. I like that it finds its root back to what Buddha said. I really do. That's just unbelievable. That's so simple. What an amazing thing that he took something so complex as the totality of human suffering and brought it back to its root. Preference. You do not have to do that. You do not have to live like that. You can release this process of using your mind to destroy your life. How? Okay. That too is simpler than people make it. Since what it's all about is letting the consciousness be the consciousness and the world be the world, you could just do that. You could just practice being aware that you're the one who's aware. You are. You're in there. You hear me. You know you are. You know you exist. You don't have to explain it. Your sense of being is always there. Your awareness of being. Just to contemplate something like contemplate just those words, and they blow your mind. Awareness of being isn't something you're aware of. It's not an object. Being is a very deep word. Being means you exist. You know that you know that you know that you are. Well, just be aware that you exist. Well, you're already aware that you exist. Good. Just be that. That's called awareness of being. That's the self. Can you get an A on this, can't you? How hard can it be? Tag, you're it. That's it. That's your spiritual practice. Go read whatever you want. Go study whatever you want. Go travel wherever you want. When it's all said and done, that's your spiritual practice. It has to be. Why? Because the state you're returning to, not achieving, but returning to, is that the world still exists. It always did. It's not your job to make it go away. Give me a break. Why should it go away? It just is. You don't do anything with that. And your consciousness is just aware of the part you see. That's all. Achieve that state, and you're out. It's clear. Suffering's over. Burden's over. Therefore, you simply be aware that you are aware at all times. Now what you're going to find is that you need a little help with that. So instead of just being aware that you're aware, you get to be aware of what you're aware of. That's a big difference. If I tell you to just be aware that you're aware, you won't be able to do it. You will later, but it's hard now. But if I tell you to be aware of what you're aware of, that's much closer to doable. You're aware of me sitting here. You're aware of me talking to you. You're aware of your thoughts passing through in your mind, thinking about when this is going to be over so you can go home. You're aware. You're aware of your feelings that come up. You're aware of what your body feels like. You're aware of smells. You're aware of a lot of things, aren't you? Good. Be aware of what you're aware of at all times. That's all. Isn't that amazing? Be aware of what you're aware of. Of course, if you're aware of what you're aware of, you're starting to practice what's going on. Because what you're aware of is life, and you're the one who's aware. That's fine. And be especially aware, please, of your preferences. Be aware whenever you notice that something inside of you is saying, I don't like that, or I like that, or I wish it was that way. I hope it'll never be that way. I want that. I don't want that. Those are preferences. Those are breaking up this world that you see into things you like and things that you don't like. Don't do anything about it. I didn't say make it go away, did I? I said be aware, that's all. Just be aware of what you're aware of and pay special notice to when it's breaking the world up into what it likes and what it doesn't like and trying to tell you what to do about it. And you know what you're going to tell me? That was a trick making, because that's all it does. That was a trick. You tricked me. You said, just watch that. That's all I'm watching. All it does is break the thing up into what it likes and what it doesn't like and tell you what to do about it. Do you see that? Just watch all day. Watch. And that's what you're going to see. It has something to say about everything. And what it has to say is like or dislike or I couldn't care less. Which is still preference. Right? You're still breaking the world up. And then when it decides it likes it, it comes up with what it's supposed to do about it, doesn't it? How to get it, how to keep it, how to this, how to that. When it decides it doesn't like it, it comes up what to do about it, how to avoid it, how to make sure it never happens. That's what it's in there doing. That's what it does. So your path, this simple path of this simple life, is be aware of what you're aware of. I would ask you to do nothing else. Be aware of what you're aware of. You will see that the rest happens anyway. It's not like if you're just aware of what you're aware of, nothing's going to happen. Things keep happening. The world's a happening place. And you're a part of it. You're going to meet people and things will happen and sickness will come and health will come and you get old. You got older all by yourself, didn't you? Look what happened. Huh? What'd you do for that? Yeah, funny. It just happens. I don't know how to explain it. Things happen. And so instead of playing the game of participating in this sickness of preferences, you just play the game of being aware of what you're aware of. At first it will be very uncomfortable because you're going to want to do something about it. Thought I'd clue you in on that. Give you a crash course. You're going to find that if you don't want something, you're going to want to do something about it. Just sit there and be aware. Be aware that what you're aware of is something that wants to do something about it. That's what you're aware of, right? And sometimes that something's a little strong, isn't it? Like, whoa, what a team of wild horses. It sure has some energy, doesn't it? So net, you be aware of what you're aware of. And more importantly, you become comfortable being aware of what you're aware of. How? How do I become comfortable when I have this noise, these energy patterns that move very strong inside toward what I want and away from what I don't want? Relax. Relax in the face of the urge to do something about it. Relax your shoulders, relax your chest, just relax. Even though everything inside of you wants to do something else. You relax. You still do have some will. That's how you use your will. That can't be that simple. It's that simple. They give you 800 million techniques, and I'm telling you, when it's said and done, what they boil down to is relax. Do your mantra, relax. Turn mala, relax. Go somewhere and chant, relax. Meditate, relax. Take deep breaths, relax. When it's said and done, it's your last act of will. It's your only act of will. That what you want is out, not in. And because what you want is out, not in, you don't go with it. With what? That which you're watching. Do you see it? Not so hard. If you will do this regularly, you will find yourself much more comfortable, aware of what you're aware of. And when you are pretty much totally comfortable being aware of what you're aware of, there's no big gotchas out there where you could look at me and say, yeah, Mick, I'm doing fine as long as this doesn't happen, as long as that does. There's still ones out there that I ain't watching. Those are ones you're not done with. Those are patterns that are still strong in you that are still causing disturbance. So you don't have to go do anything about it. You just don't buy in to the fact that there's going to be anything out there that you're not going to just watch. You just decide that's what I'm going to do. And if that one shows up, good, all the better. It means I get rid of it. You don't have to go out of your way. It'll take care of itself. So it is simple. I started by telling you it was simple. You just relax. Eventually, if you're comfortable, reasonably comfortable, and completely committed of relaxing and being aware of what you're aware of, it'll even out so much that it will cease to draw you into it as much. Aware of starts to take on a sameness, an evenness. And because it's not pulling on you and disturbing you, You don't have as many preferences. Who cares? It's the same. It just starts to be even. And therefore it quiets down enough. And I started by telling you, your highest state is to be aware of your being. Aware of your being. But since that's very difficult, be aware of what you're aware of. When what you're aware of ceases to have this impact on you of causing all this noise and disturbance, and over time it becomes even peace, equanimity, you will find yourself becoming aware of your being as opposed to aware of what you're aware of. It just happens naturally. You cease to be drawn into the objects, therefore you remain within the subject. It's not something you do. It is not something you can do. You don't even want to try to do it. To even try to do it is to create more disturbance. It just happens naturally that way. As you become more aware of your existence of being, of your presence of being, you will start to feel the nature of your being. Your being has a nature. It has an awesome nature. You'll never know it because you're busy looking in the mirror of what you're paying attention to. So that becomes your nature. Your disturbances, your this, your that, your fears, your hopes, your dreams, because that's the mirror you're looking at. When you are no longer addicted to looking in that mirror, and you drift back naturally, I don't want you even trying to do that, it just happens naturally, that you find yourself aware of your being. As you become aware of your being, you're naturally going to be aware of the nature of your being. And that's when the fun starts. When no longer are you human, you are now exploring your divinity. And that's the whole rest of your spiritual evolution. The human took you to a certain level. And so, as you move back into your spiritual being, which is your sense of being, then the rest opens, and your journey at that level expands and unfolds by itself. That's how simple life is. That's how simple spirituality is. It's all there. That simple. Nothing burdensome was given for you to do, okay? You didn't have to be a genius to understand it. It explains everything, the beginning to the end. The question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay enslaved by this process of preference? Are you going to keep defining how you want it to be and then getting upset when it's not and getting happy when it is? Or are you willing to go deeper than that? Work your way out. You want to have a fun life? This is a fun life. Aside from the mystery and the enjoyment of the exploration of being, of the unknown, aside from that, you don't have to have any problems because you gave up on the world as a problem or a solution, right? It's nature. It's something you're aware of. Doesn't matter. You're fine. You hear me? Jagrata.